Om Jnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vandeham Shri Gurur Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitanscha He Krishna Karuna Sindha Deenabandha Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayine Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gaura Tushe Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Janmadhyasya yatonvayalitrata Charte subhigyasvarat Tene Brahma Hridaya Adikavaye Muhyantiyat Surayah Tejo Vari Mridam Yatha Vinimayo Yatra Trusharvo Mrisha Dhamna Svena Sada Nirasta Kuhakam Satyam Param Dhimahi. So, I will talk about the Sandarbhas of Jiva Gosvami. Before the appearance of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there were various Vaishnava Sampradayas in India. And these Sampradayas, they arose in opposition to the preaching of Shankaracharya. Before the Sampradayas propagated by Sri Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, etc. became prominent, Shankaracharya's preaching was very popular in India. And because these acharyas mainly they engaged in refuting the philosophy of Shankaracharya, they were not able to say clearly the Vaishnava philosophy. Because one thing is that if you have to refute somebody, then you are engaged mainly in giving arguments against that person. Another is that when you just speak freely about what you have to say without bothering about the other's opinion. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he came to explain the highest principle described in the Vedic literature, especially in Śrīmad-Bhāgavata. And that principle which he showed us is known as Achintya Bheda Bhed. Because he started a new school of philosophy, there was a need to explain it. In India, it is a tradition that any acharya, any school which establishes its own philosophy, they have to explain it on the basis of the Vedanta Sutra. They have to explain their philosophical schools, principles on the basis of Vedanta Sutra, Bhagavad Gita and Upanishads. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he said that Vedanta Sutra have been already explained by the author of Vedanta Sutra. So the other acharyas, Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Nimbarkacharya, Vallabhacharya, they all wrote commentaries on the Vedanta Sutra. And they have given different explanations of it. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that the direct explanation of Vedanta Sutra is already existing in Śrīmad-Bhāgavata Purana. Therefore, he stressed that we should study this book and understand the real explanation. So for this reason, his followers did not write any commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. but they wrote commentaries on Śrīmad-Bhāgavata. And they wrote books explaining the meaning of or the essence of Śrīmad-Bhāgavata. So Jiva Gosvami, he wrote commentaries on Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, which are known as Kram Sandarbhas. But to give the essence of Bhagwatam, he wrote 6 books which are known as Bhagavad Sandarbha or Sat Sandarbha. So these Sat Sandarbhas, they are known as Tattva Sandarbha, Bhagavad Sandarbha, Paramatma Sandarbha, Krishna Sandarbha, Bhakti Sandarbha and Priti Sandarbha. So Jiva Goswami says that in all the literatures, such as the Vedas, the Upanishads, the Samhitas, the Puranas, there are basically 3 things which are described. And these 3 things are called Sambandha, Abhidheya and Prayojana, which means the relation, the process and the goal. Just as if you go in a company to work, then first is that you have to know what is your position. Whether you are a worker or a clerk or you are a secretary or manager. That is the first thing. You have to know your designation. If you are in the company without a designation, then you will be very confused. Suppose you are hired by a company and they don't tell you what is your designation and in which department you have to work, then what will you do then? So if you go to any of the office or department and you say that I am being hired in this company, they will immediately ask you, so what is your post? So therefore, Jiva Goswami says that we are existing in this material world, which is like a big organization. Just as in any organization or in any society or industry, there are various activities happening, things are being produced, managed. In the same way, in this universe, there are many activities which are happening and we are part of it. So first we have to know what is our designation. And once you know your designation, then you know how you relate with other people. So the word Sambandha, which Jiva Goswami says is one of the 3 things explained in the scriptures, means relation. Which means that we have to know what is our relationship to this world, to the creator of the world, to other living beings. And once you know the relation, then immediately you know your duties, your responsibilities. Then you know what you have to do. Even in your own family, there may be few people living, but they are interrelated and everybody knows his or her relationship with the other members of the family. And you deal and behave with the other members of the family according to the relationship you have. So similarly, we have to know our relationship in this world. The things in this world are not independent, everything is interrelated. Just as we have cells in our physical body, and these cells are not independent, they are interrelated with everything else. And every cell knows its function. So similarly, we as human beings, who are like a small cell, small part in this big body of the universe, we are also interrelated with everything else here. But we don't know the relation. A cell knows its relation, and because it knows the relation, it also knows its function. But we have a relation, but we don't have knowledge about it, and therefore we don't know how to function properly in this material world. And because we don't know how to function, but we are all functioning. So therefore we are malfunctioning. And because we are malfunctioning, we are getting karma. And then we are getting the reaction of that karma. And we have got caught in the cycle of malfunctioning and getting the reaction, and then again malfunctioning and getting the reaction. And that's how our life is going on. So it's just like you go in a company and you don't know your real designation, but you assume something and you go in one department and you work, and instead of getting salary you get punished. So because you are always making a mess going in some department where you don't belong. So therefore Jiva Goswami says that it is better to know your sambandha, your relation properly, and then act. So he wrote 4 books to explain this. How much work he did. Tattva Sandarbha, Bhagavad Sandarbha, Paramatma Sandarbha and Krishna Sandarbha. So these 4 books he wrote to explain what is our relationship to the material nature. What is our relationship to this physical body. What is our relationship to God. How the nature is related to God. And then next thing is that once you know your relation, then naturally comes that what do you have to do, what is your function. So just as you go in any company, organization, any firm, then you know your post, your relation, then you know your duty, your responsibility. So you act accordingly then. So that acting according to your relation, that is called abhidheya or the process. And that is described in Bhakti Sandarbha. And if you are going to work in a firm as prescribed according to your responsibility or duties, then at the end of month you also get something. So Jiva Gosvami says that if you act according, once you know the sambandha, your relation, your position, then you act accordingly, which is bhakti, devotion. And then what will happen by acting according to that relation? So that is described in the 6th book, that is Priti Sandarbha, that if you act according to your relation, then you will get love of God. So these are the 3 things which every devotee should know. Actually, every living being should know these 3 things. But as devotees, we must know it clearly so that we can function properly and we can reach our goal. So to be successful in any field, you have to know what you want and you have to be very clear about it and you have to know the process, how to achieve that. And then you also have to know whether you have the ability to reach that goal or not. So Jiva Gosvami says that the goal is to reach prema or love of God, and the process to attain is bhakti or sadhana bhakti. And he says that all of us are qualified for that. We all have the ability to achieve it. So this is the analysis he has done from Bhagwatam. Says that these are the 3 things explained in Bhagwatam, which is an explanation of Vedanta Sutra, which is the essence of the Upanishads. And Upanishads are the essence of the Vedas. So therefore, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is the Nigama Kalpataru Galitam Phalam. It is called the mature fruit, the ripe fruit of the Vedic tree. So in Tattva Sandarbha, he gives the complete essence of Bhagavatam. But before he does that, he first says that what is the best way to get knowledge? In philosophy, there are 2 things which are discussed. One is called epistemology, which means the proper process to acquire knowledge, which means to get the process by which you can get proper knowledge. And the second part is called ontology, which means what is that we have to know. So Tattva Sandarbha therefore is divided in 2 parts. First part is dealing with epistemology and second with ontology. So in the first part he says that we have various processes to acquire knowledge. We acquire knowledge through our senses. You hear, you see, you smell, touch, taste. Then we also have knowledge which comes by inference. And then he says that we also get knowledge by hearing from others. Says that the knowledge which we acquire by our own experience, which is called direct perception, has its limitation. The greatest limitation of direct perception is that you can only know things which are at present. Now at this moment you can get knowledge of things which are existing now. But what happened here yesterday, you cannot have direct perception of that. If you have to know what happened here yesterday, then you have to only hear from some authority. So direct perception is only of things which are present at the moment. So if we want to know something which happened in the past, then direct perception is not a process for that. And the second limitation of direct perception is that we perceive things in a very limited range. So if you have to see, then we have a limited range. We can only see so far, and beyond that we don't see what is there. Or we cannot see things which are very small, or things which are very close to our eyes. Or if there is an obstacle, I cannot see beyond the wall. And we can only see within a particular range of wavelength of light, between violet to red. We cannot see what is ultraviolet or infrared. So we have so much limitation of perceiving things directly. Many times people ask this question, if there is God, show me God. So this is a stupid argument, because you don't have the ability to see God. You don't have the ability to see even X-ray or ultraviolet rays. And you cannot see the atoms. But just because you cannot see does not mean that it does not exist. You cannot see your backside. So there are so many things you cannot see, and that's why this direct perception is very limited. And even that which you see, it is not that what you see things are exactly like that. You can be in illusion seeing something which is actually not like that. If you put one rod in this cup here, then it will look bent where the water is. From there it will look bent. When you take it out, it is straight. You put it again, it will appear bent. So you know that this pencil or pen or rod is straight, but as soon as you put it in this glass and you see it, it appears bent. So although I am having direct perception, but actually I am perceiving it wrongly. It is not bent, but it appears bent to me. Although I know it is not bent, still it appears like that. So therefore, direct perception is liable to be wrong. In fact, whatever we are seeing, it is not really that we are seeing these objects. When you see this cup. Everybody is seeing this cup. But actually you are not seeing this cup. It is only your belief that you are seeing it. Because what you are seeing is that light from this is falling on your retina and it is making an inverted image, and that gets converted into some chemical reaction. It makes an image, inverted image on your retina, and then that is again further transformed into some chemical reaction in the brain, and some parts of the neurons, they light up in the brain, and that you think you are seeing this. Actually you have never seen it, and you will never see it. All you see is some change happening in the brain, and if we can change that part of your brain, you can start seeing something which is not there. So that's what happens in the psychedelic effects of drugs. People take drugs and they're seeing things because it's some chemicals which go into the brain. So all the time we are thinking that we are seeing, and we are so much absorbed in these things, and we are so much attached. Our whole life is rotating about this. And at night we dream, and that time the objects are not there. At least now this object is there, it is making an image, and I think I see it. But at night when I dream, then the object is also not there. Some arrangement is there, the arrangement of nature, that inside your brain the same effect is created, which will be created by seeing the object. Now this effect is created because the object is there. In the dream, the object is not there, but that effect is created. That is the only difference between dreaming state and wakeful state. So as far as the brain is concerned, there is no difference. That's why when you sleep, you don't think that this is a dream. You think it is real. It's only when you wake up, then you realize that you are dreaming. So therefore Jiva Gosvami says that direct perception is not a reliable means to know the absolute reality. And the reason he says, because our senses are not capable of perceiving. So therefore, how can we know? So this is a very big question in philosophy. First of all, how to know, and then how to know that we know. Everybody knows, but how do we know that what we know is the right thing? It is possible that what I know is not proper. So knowledge is of two types, proper knowledge and improper knowledge. And if knowledge is proper, then we can take proper action. And if knowledge is improper, then we are bound to take improper action. So therefore Jiva Gosvami says that it is very important to have proper understanding, proper knowledge. Because if I am making an effort to achieve something, if I am planning from here to go to the airport and I am going to use my vehicle, then it is also proper for me to know what is the route to reach there. And if I have improper understanding and take the wrong route, I will not reach there, although I will be driving all the time. So therefore, if our goal is, first of all, we have to know goal. People are not even clear what they want. So we have so many desires. But Jiva Goswami says that the highest thing which we can attain is love of God, and this will satisfy all our desires. And then second, we have to know, once you know the destination of the goal of what I want to achieve, then next is, what is the proper way to achieve it? So this knowledge is very important, because if I don't have the proper goal or proper understanding how to reach that goal, then I will waste my effort, I will not reach it. So this is what he says in Tattva Sandarbha, and then he says that the best way to acquire knowledge is by the revealed sound, because the revealed sound does not have any limitation. The knowledge which is given by God is free from the defects, and therefore if we want perfect knowledge, then we hear what God says. So then he says that Vedas are word of God, but he says at present, first of all, Vedas are not available in their complete form. Most of the Vedas are lost now. And secondly, different people interpret Vedas differently. He says therefore, it is not possible to know the absolute reality just by studying the Vedas. So he says, in this particular age, if we want to know what is the absolute reality, therefore, instead of studying the Vedas, we should study the Puranas. Because Puranas, they explain the same knowledge of the Vedas, but explain it more clearly and directly. So then he analyzes which Purana we should study. And in brief, he says that there are 18 Puranas, and 6 of them are in Tamas, 6 in Rajas, and 6 in Sattva. So he says that the Puranas which are in Tamas and Rajas, obviously by studying them, it is not possible to know the absolute. Therefore we should study the Puranas in Sattva. And among the 6 Puranas which are in Sattva, he says that Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Therefore he says, if we have interest to know what is the absolute reality, what we have to do in our life to become absolutely happy and satisfied, then we should look to Śrīmad-Bhāgavata. So then he begins analyzing what is the message of Śrīmad-Bhāgavata. And to analyze this, he says that to know what exactly is the essence of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, we should analyze the heart of the author of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Because Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam also has so many stories and very big book and descriptions of so many types of kings and devotees. But what is the true essence of this book? He says we should know that by seeing the heart of the author. So then he analyzes the heart of Vyasadeva, what he felt before he wrote it. So in Bhagavatam itself there is a story that Vyasadeva, one day he was sitting at the bank of Saraswati river in his ashram, and he was feeling dissatisfied in his heart, and he did not understand why there was a dissatisfaction in the heart, because he said that he has divided the Vedas into 4 divisions. He has written the Vedanta Sutra, he wrote Mahabharata, he wrote Puranas, and all he did so that people can get proper knowledge. And still he was feeling dissatisfied. So he was not able to understand this. And it is then that Narada appeared before him, who is his guru, and then he posed this question to him. So then Narada, he explained to Vyasa that what you have done is a very good work, but you have mixed things together. You should write one book to glorify the Lord without any mixture of materialistic activities. So then Sri Vyasa, he sat in meditation, and in meditation he realized that Krishna is the Supreme Lord and pure love to Krishna is the highest goal of life. Bhakti yogena mansi samyak pranita male apashyat purusham purnam mayam chatadapashvayam. So he saw that there is Lord and he has various energies, and he realized that it is only by bhakti, by devotion, that a living being can become completely satisfied. So in the material world we can have so many things in our life, various powers, positions, wealth, relations, but we will not feel satisfied in the heart unless we have devotion to God. Because we are part of God, just as we have this temple, and temple walls are made from bricks. So the brick does not have any purpose individually, it has no function by itself. Its function is to be part of the wall. It cannot exist for itself. Or in our body we have cells, and the purpose of cell is not for itself, but the cell is existing for the whole body. So same is applicable to us, that as living beings, we don't have any purpose independently. Our purpose is when we are linked up with God, who is the whole. And if we try to remain independent and try to make us happy, we will always fail. When Vidura once was in Rishikesh and he met the great sage Maitreya, he asked him one question, which is very interesting, and no one asked that question. Although we should all ask that question. And the question is, Sukhasya karmani karoti loke natat sukham aparasya pavritam. He says that everyone is working to be happy. There is nobody in this world who does not work for happiness. But he says that nobody becomes happy. He says not only that they don't become happy, they become miserable. And the amazing thing is that nobody stops to ask this question, that why is that I worked for sukham or happiness and I did not become happy. So this is the question which Vidura had asked Maitreya, Sukhasya karmani karoti loke natat sukham, that everybody is working for happiness, but they fail. Actually, nothing fails like this. Everybody continuously is failing in this. That nobody stops to think, why am I failing in this? So in the beginning of Bhagwatam, the very first chapter, 6 questions were asked by Shaunaka Rishi to Suta Goswami. And one of those 6 questions was, Bruhina Shraddhadhananam Yen Atma Samprasidati, that please tell us that by which our heart, our mind will become completely satisfied. So Suta Goswami, he answered very clearly, and he said that it is only Bhakti Yoga. Savai pamsam paro dharma yato bhakti radhokshaje ahetukki apratihata ye atma samprasidati. Says it is only by bhakti that Atma can be satisfied. And in Sanskrit, the word Atma means body, Atma means mind, Atma means intelligence, Atma means soul. So all these will be satisfied only by bhakti, and nothing else can satisfy. So throughout the history, so many people have tried to gain happiness in so many different ways, but they have all miserably failed. Therefore, in Tattva Sandarbhas, Jiva Gosvami says that on the basis of Bhagwatam, it is only Bhakti Yoga which can give complete satisfaction. Because he says that the soul, the very constitutional position of the soul is to engage in bhakti. And if the soul is not in that constitutional position, then it remains dissatisfied. And then he tries to remove this dissatisfaction by various material means. He tries to get some relation or some position or some wealth in this material world. But this inner dissatisfaction does not go away. It again and again stares you back. And then you look for something else, you think now this will make me happy. But unless one comes to the point of realizing that only bhakti will make me happy, this journey will go on. So in Tattva Sandarbha, therefore, he gives this essence that there are other paths. That there is path of Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, but they are all incomplete. And the reason is very clear, that all other processes, they do not engage the soul in its constitutional position. So it is very logical and scientific explanation of bhakti which he has given. Of course, he has also done analysis that there is a soul in the body, because first of all we have to establish that we are not the body, we are soul. And then he talks that why there is so much distress for the soul, that is because it is in ignorance. And then he also refutes impersonalism, because there is also very strong school of philosophy which says that we are all Brahman. So he gives very technical refutations which I think I will not go into, because you have to know a lot to understand his arguments. So that is what basically Tattva Sandarbha contains. It talks about the pramanas, epistemology, or the valid means to attain knowledge, and then in analyzing that he establishes that it is Śrīmad-Bhāgavata which is the best means to attain knowledge about the Absolute. And then he shows that how Bhagwatam is propagating bhakti and the goal is to attain love.